Filming a video literally right before I have to go to work. Great idea. Hi guys, and welcome to another Top 5 Wednesday. This week's topic is favorite sci-fi slash fantasy books, and it's kind of in partnership with the Science Fiction Fantasy Awards that are a thing that happen on BookTube. So I'm going to link the Top 5 Wednesday Goodreads group down below so that you can check it out. And for this one I had a bit of trouble because I realized that despite loving science fiction and fantasy, I don't actually read that much of it. More in the sense that I don't read a lot of high fantasy or like things that are explicitly sci-fi fantasy. A lot of it's like YA books that are technically a fantasy, but they can kind of like a fantasy adventure or, you know. But I do love fantasy especially. I don't know, I think I might have like one sci-fi book on this list, but it's mostly just fantasy. And you've probably either heard of or read most of these, but it's not exactly a recommendations video, it's just talking about my favorites, so whatever. And I'm not really going to be explaining the plot points or like summarizing any of the books because I'm pretty sure most of them are popular enough that you would all know what they are about. Number 5 on this list is a sci-fi, and it's not the only sci-fi I've read, but the first one that I thought of and the only one that I actually owned, and that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. And this is generally seen as the first actual science fiction novel. Now going into this I was a little bit skeptical because, you know, sometimes classic books can be a bit tough to get through. Especially they can just have a lot of like heavy subject matter or just the language is a little bit difficult to understand. But I actually found this really good, which I wasn't expecting. Not that I was expecting to not like it, but I was expecting to find it harder to get through than it was. But yeah, it was really interesting, and I think the part that was the most interesting to me about this was that in every other adaptation or depiction of Frankenstein that I'd ever seen, the monster was just kind of this like mindless zombie thing. But in this book, the monster is actually very intelligent and like is able to like have a conversation, and like yeah, I just found that very interesting that it was just so different from every other portrayal that I'd seen. But yeah, this one's really good. If you haven't read Frankenstein and you're into classics, or if you know you just are looking for something cool to read, this one's pretty good. Maybe it's probably not for everybody either. There's gonna be people who don't love it that much, which I get. But yeah, I would recommend. Number 4 is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I know people have a lot of mixed feelings on this book, which I understand. Most people either love it or it just didn't really do anything for them. I heard something the other day talking about this book, and they kind of described it as when you're reading it you can tell that it's a contemporary author writing a fantasy, which is so true. And it's not meant to be a super high fantasy, very intricate and deeply involved world or anything. It's just kind of supposed to be fluffy. I know a lot of people compare it to the Harry Potter series and say that there's like just drawn all the similarities there, which there is a lot. But I'm kind of okay with it because I see it in a way where in Fangirl it was kind of built out of a fanfic that Kath was writing and out of like a fantasy world that she was reading a book about and all this kind of stuff. So it just, on that level, it kind of makes sense that it's similar to things that we read. But at the same time I do understand the people that are kind of annoyed by that, but whatever. And the thing about Carry On is that it's actually got a really interesting magic system. Like it's pretty different than magic systems I've seen before, and it's a very like contemporary type of magic system. It's different. I don't know, I like it. The main thing that I love about Carry On is the characters. I love them all so much. They're so good. The general plotline is pretty good at some points, others it's not. The ending's kind of weird. The whole thing with the mage I still don't really get. I don't know. It seems like I'm criticizing this book even though it's on my list. I love this book so much. It just makes me happy every single time I think about it. It's like a fluffy book, okay? I love Baz a lot. It's just a really great book. If you've read Rainbow Rowell's other stuff and you haven't read this book, please do. It's so good. Number 3 is the Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. I'm also kind of including the Grisha trilogy with this because I think the Grisha trilogy kind of embodies the whole fantasy element more with the whole magic system and the magical creatures and stuff. They're more apparent in that series, but I like the Six of Crows series better, and since they take place in the same world, I think they can still both be qualified as fantasies. And yeah, that's the thing. I adore Six of Crows. Like, I love the Grisha trilogy, it's really great and everything, but I think I connected with the characters more in this series. The characters in Six of Crows are amazing. I love all of them so much. I have a lot of feelings. This is one of my favorite series ever, I think. So anyways, if you haven't read the Grisha trilogy or read Six of Crows, you don't need to read the Grisha trilogy first to read the Six of Crows series, but it would probably help, and there'd be a lot of like there's a lot of Easter eggs in this book and stuff that you wouldn't get unless you read the Grisha trilogy. Number 2 is the Lord of the Rings series slash The Hobbit. I'm going to include them in the same vein because they are all kind of a continuing story. I just don't own any of the actual Lord of the Rings books. I only have The Hobbit. And if you know anything about me at all, you will know that I love Lord of the Rings more than I love most things. Like, ever since I saw the movies when I was preteen, I don't exactly know how old I was, I just fell in love with them. I've seen them so many times. I've seen every single behind the scenes thing that's possibly on the videos. I've watched every extended edition multiple times. I love them. And I also love the books, because they're classics obviously, but the books are also really hard to get through. Even though I am a super hardcore fan of the series, it's tough sometimes. That's why they're not number one on the list. Like, I do love them, but they wouldn't be my first choice to go reread. In fact, I've only read the series once. I've read The Hobbit a couple times because it's a little bit easier because it's meant for kids. But yeah, I absolutely adore this series and this whole world, and it's amazing. And my all-time favorite science fiction fantasy book slash series, I guess, kind of, goes to Chronicles of Narnia series by C.S. Lewis. My favorite book in the series is either this one, the OG, you know, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or possibly The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Although I do like The Silver Chair too. Basically, all these books are amazing. This is what got me into reading. I read these when I was really young. My mom would read them to me before I went to bed, and I fell in love with the world and the stories and everything. It's just such a big part of my life. Like, I love these books so much. If you haven't read the Narnia series, like, I feel like there's a lot of people that I know that haven't. What have you been doing? The series is huge. It's so good. It's amazing. It's so good. Like, I don't even know what else to say about it other than that it's amazing. Please read the series if you haven't already. So anyways, that is my list of my favorite sci-fi fantasy books. Let me know down in the comments what your favorites are, and I will see you next week for another video. Bye!